This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Super Bowl 59, now just a couple of days away, which means that it's time to start finalizing our bet slips for the Chiefs versus the Eagles. And if we're going to have a game this big and so many props available, we got to do it big on the show as well. So we're doing a twofer for today. We're going to have both Dr. Ed Feng and Meghan Payton join us, breaking down their top props for Chiefs versus Eagles to get you all ready for Super Bowl 59. Welcome on into Covering the Spread. That's a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research. Joined here as mentioned by Dr. Ed Feng and Meghan Payton. You can find Ed on X at thepowerrank. Check him out at thepowerrank.com as well. Ed, you got the Stanford hat on. You are, it looks like, in the wintry mood for today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. My road outside my house is completely iced. The kids are at home, so we're gonna try to get through this before any internet issues happen.
I couldn't even walk my dog today because it's so icy. So Meghan, we're jealous is what we're saying, because you're down in New Orleans on Radio Row. So how do we negotiate to get this next year so I'm not stuck in ice? I guess I don't even know where it is next year, but New Orleans, I feel like it's probably not icy there, right?
Or maybe it's San Francisco next year. You know what? It's humid. It's 70 degrees. It's warm. But, as you can tell, I'm in a convention center. I guess that's what happens when you come out for Super Bowl is it's a blast, but you spend like 10 hours of the day not seeing a window. So Radio Row is packed. It's slammed, but the vibes are high. I thought I was going to see more Eagles fans. So far, I've seen more Chiefs fans here than I have Eagles fans.
I'm surprised by that, honestly, given the way things have gone the past couple of years. But how has New Orleans been overall? It's a fun city. What have you done down there?
It's been great. I mean, obviously, I'm from here, so I've got biases for sure, but great food. I just had a little extra. I'll give a little camera presentation, a little beignet.
Okay.
So the food's been good. The interviews have been great, and we've got some fun stuff coming up. So I can tell everyone's gearing up. This is the busiest day of the week so far. Everyone's coming in, and I think we're just all ready for game day.
So when you're back in town, is there a place you must go to before you leave?
There is, and I'm trying to squeeze it in. It's called Toast. It's this amazing breakfast place, kind of hole in the wall, but they've got the crepes, donuts, all the egg bacon sandwiches. It's my favorite spot, honestly, ever. So I'm considering staying an extra day just to go get the breakfast.
I respect that. I respect that so much. We'll eventually get a full New Orleans scouting report out of you, like a list of restaurants, things to do, because my wife will be there next month. So I need that selfishly for her. So we'll get the full rundown eventually on all of that. But for today, we're going to pick Meghan and Ed's brains around their top player props for Super Bowl 59. We'll talk about some touchdown bets and much more to get you ready for this game in just 1 second. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcast. 3 shows already up this week breaking down thoughts on this game. Monday, I broke down my thoughts on the more traditional markets of FanDuel Sportsbook, talk to team total, a money line, stuff like that I like. On Tuesday, Austin Swaim joined me to break down his key matchups to watch for this game. Yesterday, I went through some SGPs I like at FanDuel Sportsbook based on making some assumptions around this game. And then tomorrow, Annie Nader will join me breaking down her top novelty props for this game as well. I can't bet halftime stuff because I don't know it, but Annie does. So we'll talk to Annie about that tomorrow, 10 a.m. on the YouTube page. Again, these shows are on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, wherever you get your podcast, but also on our FanDuel football betting YouTube page. Go there, turn on notifications, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. The FanDuel Kick of Destiny is back, and this time it's every Manning for himself. This Super Bowl, 2 legends will take the field in a sudden death field goal showdown, Peyton versus Eli, live from New Orleans. 1 kick to claim ultimate family bragging rights. Who will rise to the moment? Pick your winner now on the FanDuel app, and if you back the right brother, you'll win a share of $10 million in bonus bets. It's the FanDuel Kick of Destiny 3. Make your free pick, and don't forget to tune in to watch the showdown live during Super Bowl 59 pregame show on Fox at 3 p.m. Eastern. May the best Manning win. FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. No purchase necessary. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-79-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gambling helpline ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Megan, have you made your kick of destiny pick yet? Have you decided between Peyton and Eli, or are you still scouting, getting the proper intel before you decide?
Jim, I have to go with Peyton, obviously. Denver Broncos, we're rocking with him. Can I throw a little audible? I want to put you guys on the spot because I've been asking players this, and you'd be surprised at their response. Obviously, Super Bowl in New Orleans. We know this is the Saints logo.
Yeah.
But would you guys know what this is called?
A fleur-de-lis? Is it de-lis?
There we go,
like
a fleur-de-lis.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised at the amount of players that have not been able to get that right. In the league, current players, they're like, what is that? So that's
so you're spreading the good word is what you're saying.
We're spreading the good word. We're getting that NOLA energy out there. But yes, I'm backing Peyton Manning in terms of kick of destiny.
I mean, you got the Denver connection, but also Peyton. I feel like you're kind of, I know it's spelled different, but you're kind of obligated to, too. So Ed, with no biases, no Denver associations, no Peyton in your name, Peyton or Eli for kick of destiny.
My first thought was to go flip a coin while you guys weren't watching. My second thought is that I'm going to go with Peyton because I have this debate with one of my best friends about whether Eli should be in the Hall of Fame. And, just to spite him, I'm going to go with Peyton.
Okay. Well, Eli, I believe, finds out this week about Hall of Fame stuff. Well, first ballot at least. Yeah. Right. So we'll see how that goes.
2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowls, 2 good playoff runs, rest of the career.
Is it enough? Yeah. I think I'm going Peyton too, though, because I think he's a psychopath. Complimentary, of course. And
I wish Cooper Manning was playing too.
Will his knees allow that? I know maybe we'll get Archie in here too. We'll get the whole gang out.
Yeah, we need the whole family. Get everyone involved.
Although Archie that might be cheating. I think being a current athlete might be a bridge too far.
Yeah, that's true. No, but that's actually a good point.
I feel like when you have a kid that is college age, you probably spend a lot of time being physically active, helping them out.
True.
I may know a little bit something about that in my own life. So, Cooper might be, that would be pretty cool.
So if we get you to do penalty kicks, Ed, you'd be good there?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'd be all right.
Okay. All right. So we'll get that for next year. Kick of Destiny 4 is penalty kicks between Ed and Megan. We'll do that.
They've got the kick of the extra point kick here at NFL Fan Experience. I just did it yesterday. It was so embarrassing. I got no air. It just rolled like a little soccer ball. So I will be participating in no kicks because I cannot do it until I at least get some training under my belt.
There is evidence on my phone of me trying to kick in Philadelphia at the FanDuel Fan Fest last year. It will never see the light of day. That's not happening. Absolutely.
Archive.
Not. So, I'm on board with that as well. Now, we'll talk the player props and stuff like that in a second. But obviously, our view of the prop market is going to depend heavily on what we view the overall game. So, Ed, I want to talk to you first. When you look at this matchup, Chiefs versus Eagles, you don't need to make a bet. I'm not saying you need to back a money line, a tilt, or anything like that. But what's your just overall view, top-down view of this game?
Patrick Mahomes. I simply believe he gives the Kansas City Chiefs an edge in games because of his decision-making and overall prowess. Doesn't matter. You could probably throw me out at wide receiver, and he'd figure out a way to win the Super Bowl. I did a little bit of analysis looking at quarterback records in one-score games for a career. And, he obviously went 12-0 this year. Usually that demands regression to the mean. I've been saying no to that most of the season because I really do think he's that good, and I think there's some underlying reasons for it. But I went back and he's of any quarterback since 1999, he has the highest win rate in one-score games. And look, obviously a lot of other things matter, like defense and special teams, and there's a huge component of luck. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning at the top of that list, like there's a little bit of signal there as well. So, my number has Kansas City by a half point. I do not like Philadelphia plus 1.5, whatever. I would never bet that. I would honestly probably lean against my number. And that's because of Patrick Mahomes.
He's pretty good. I'd agree with that assumption. That Patrick Mahomes is pretty good. How about you, Megan? What's your overall view of Chiefs versus Eagles?
Look, I completely agree with everything Ed's saying. Like, it's really difficult to bet against Mahomes. It's because he is that Superman. He can do it all, especially in the biggest of games. However, I do think on paper the Eagles are a better team. I've gone back and forth. Okay, so if you're on the Chiefs, this is how I view it a little bit. I think special teams is going to be really important. I do think Kansas City has the edge in special teams. So if you are looking at the matchups, like that's an area where Kansas City can take advantage of. Now, I don't see them as equal-sided. If we take out, which you can never take out, but if we just ignore a little bit the fact of, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, big game, Kansas City, three-peat, all of it, the Eagles are the better team in terms of talent overall. They've got the best running back in Saquon Barkley. Not only do you have to watch out for him, but if you put all of your attention towards him, don't forget, not only do you have A.J. Brown, but you've got Devontae Smith, and throw Devontae Smith in 15 other teams, and he's a wide receiver one. Dallas Goedert takes a massive step up in the postseason too. So I think that's another edge. And ultimately, if the Eagles win this game, it's not just going to be about what they do on offense. It's going to be those negative plays, generating pressure on defense. It's guys like Jalen Carter. It's not just about the interceptions and the fumbles when we talk, turnovers. I think it's going to be the sacks. If you can put Mahomes and the Chiefs in 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20 situations, that's how you can beat them. And there is a little bit of extra motivation. I mean, just a couple of years ago, they were in the same spot, different team, much better defense. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as we saw in that Super Bowl. So I lean the under. And if I was picking a team, I'm going to go with the underdogs.
Okay, so Megan is on the Eagles plus 1 or 2 if she were forced to pick there, but leaning more so towards the under 48.5 at -110. Megan, I'm going to stick with you here as we talk about some player props for this game. We talk player props throughout the entire year. We got the weird stuff, and we'll talk about the more off the wall, bonkers Super Bowl stuff later on. We also have our traditional props. So when you look at those more typical player props for this game, which ones stand out to you here?
Okay, I'll give you one from the Eagles and one from the Chiefs. Starting with the Eagles, you mentioned guys that you have to look out for. Well, Devontae Smith, I'm taking over his receptions. 4.5 is the line. I like over here. If you look at all the 3 playoff games he played in this season, 4 receptions, but 4 targets. So he's catching when he's getting targeted. And I think that the Eagles are going to have to utilize him just a bit more if he gets more looks. I think he's been extremely efficient. He's, used to the postseason. I could see that being an area that, just simply if you've got guys on, you're trying to create pressure towards Saquon, and then you've got to cover A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith could be that guy that's open. So I like the fact that he's been a perfect 4-for-4, and so I took his over. And then in terms of receiving yards for the Chiefs, I like Samaje Perine. His line's at 7.5. I know sleeper, everyone's talking Kelce, Saquon, all the big names, but I find a lot of value in Samaje. So 7.5, he had 17 receiving yards in the AFC Championship. He has cleared this in 14 of the last 15 games. Yes, that's a real stat. I can't figure out quite why the line's like this. I know that the Eagles have done good at, slowing down running backs, especially in the passing game, but I think that they'll create pressure. Obviously, Samaje can be used in those checkdowns, play action pass, and honestly, he's got burst, he's got power, and he can easily hit this with 1 reception.
Yeah, yep. Perine in the games since Isaiah Pacheco returned, averaging 20 receiving yards per game. It's an average. It's not a rate like you were talking about, but 13 out of 15, pretty good number for Samaje Perine as well. So Megan is on Perine over 7.5 receiving yards at -110, and taking the Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions +102 at FanDuel Sportsbook. What about you, Ed? What more traditional props are you standing out to you this week?
Yeah, actually, let me just talk about Perine real quick, right? Like, he had that 9-yard conversion to seal the Buffalo game, so you would have been losing that over 7.5 until the absolute last play from scrimmage that matters, right? And again, like, I honestly think, I mean, that's a Patrick Mahomes thing, right? Like, he is more likely to convert that. I mean, obviously, there's some scheme going on with what Reed is doing, but I think that's a perfect example of why, like, they win a lot of their close games, right? Just those conversions and things like that. Anyways, that just made me think of that. All right, let's talk about props. I do not originate things in this kind of traditional market. We'll talk about more stuff that I do, but let's talk about the Saquon rushing total, because I think it's so interesting. If you say Saquon Barkley under, you have an incredible opportunity to look like an idiot. Oh, this keeps coming down though. I think it was 111 earlier this week. And, you know, Saquon Barkley is, you know, it's we got to understand regression, right? He's had so many explosive plays. We know there is a random element in explosive plays. And he's probably going to regress to what he's done over the past couple of weeks. But if you would have made that prediction in any of the past couple of weeks, you would have looked really, really dumb. You have a Kansas City defense that has actually looked pretty good in the numbers. And they have also regressed. So they're about NFL average when I look at rushing success rate adjusted for who you played. But honestly, it's the same group of guys that have been like bottom 5 for the previous couple years. So what's going on there? That's probably some randomness too. So it's not like you're facing a really great rush defense. Saquon's going to regress, but it's like to his average, right? And he's obviously a threat to break a big play. There will hopefully be some more analysis on my part. You know, Super Bowl regression part 1 was quarterback records in 1-score games. Super Bowl regression part 2, if I ever get to it before Sunday, is regression in explosive plays. I do want to look at that. I am a little encouraged that this Barkley number keeps coming down, and I think the under is the right side, but I think it's an interesting one, and because of the reasons I said.
I took his live under in the conference championship. He had the long run.
Oh, nice.
He did one snap on the next drive after that. And then Kenneth Gainwell came in. It's like red flags. Like, oh, is Saquon hurt? Because if Kenneth Gainwell's in that early, I was like, well, he must be kind of banged up. I think he was, based on the way he was used from there on out. But then Gainwell got hurt. And like every time they gave the ball to Barkley, you just clench, because I was frightened about him just every time. It did not make for an enjoyable viewing experience, but it did win.
No, for sure.
He finished at 118. It was under, I think, 137.5. So like it was a not enjoyable sweat, but I do like money. So it worked out okay.
I mean, he went.
You were on the right side of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I was on the over. Well, I was on the over
for the full game.
For the full game, and it was 119.5. I believe was the original, like before kickoff, and he ended up with 117. And
they gave Dallas Goedert 2 sweeps. That could have been to Saquon for you, Megan.
2 more, yeah. So we were on the opposite sides. You ended up happy after that. I was like, come on, bad beat. But
it was a bad run out for you. Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting, because I honestly think the over was the right play given what happened.
Yes,
breaking the
100%
explosive. And like, if that game is close at all, there's no doubt that goes over in the second half. And
they're not giving Dallas Goedert sweeps if it's close.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So Ed is on the under for Saquon Barkley, 109.5. That is -110 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's talk some touchdowns. I actually think there's some value in the touchdown market for this week, but I want to pick your guys' brain first. Let's start things off with you here, Ed. When you look at touchdown markets, it can be first touchdown, anytime touchdown, anything you like. Where are you seeing value at FanDuel Sportsbook?
Look, Jalen Hurts -115 anytime touchdown just seems so wrong to me that like I mean, it just seems wrong. I feel like it should be -150, -160, perhaps even higher. I don't have any numbers for this. I have bet this. I do like this. I definitely want to shout out Matt Friedman. I asked him for a contribution to 5 Nugget Saturday a couple weeks ago, and he gave me basically the shortest answer I've ever got. I forget who the player was, but I think it was Kyron Williams anytime touchdown at some point in the playoff. And his text to me was like, all these running back anytime touchdowns are massively underpriced. And so since then, I've been betting a lot of his stuff. You can check it out for free on Fantasy Life. I think I'm 7-1. I think the only loser was, I don't even remember who it was. It's been pretty good. He does not like Saquon at minus 190, but he does like Jalen Hurts at I think he's got it at minus 163. And again, this number just seems wrong to me. Tush, push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. I think they do get close. I think he does get in there. And I think there's a lot of value there.
I agree. If you look at the games this year, Hurts has scored in 12 out of 17 games. That's about 70%. If you look at the games in the tush push era, so week 1 of 2022 on, he has scored in 35 out of 53 full games, about 66%. If you look at him in his playoff games in the tush push era, he's done it in 5 out of 7. That's more than 70% as well. And you're getting a minus 150. Why? I don't know. I can't answer that either. I think that it's a massive pricing error, and in all not just Hurts, but like Megan, we talked about Josh Allen a bunch. Same thing. Like, I just feel like in general, the tush push guys are underrated here. And you were going to say something there too.
Right. Edward Egros did talk about how Kansas City stopped the tush push 3 times last time in the AFC Conference Championship game. Maybe that's affecting this, but it should be noted that was like the only 3 stops they had all season on like those types of short yardage situations. So just, Jalen Hurts minus 115 is I think a lot of value there.
I agree with that for sure. Okay, Megan, what about you? Which touchdown bets you like in this week?
Well, I do like the Jalen Hurts one, especially at the minus 115 number. Bit of value play. I like Dallas Goedert at plus 310. This is the guy I'm eyeing in terms of getting in the end zone. I really like betting on Goddard in the postseason. His numbers significantly go up. He leads the Eagles in receptions and receiving yards in the playoffs. And you look at a Kansas City defense, where's their weakness? Their weakness is at tight end. They give up the most receiving yards to tight ends out of anyone in the league, and yet they're in the Super Bowl. So I guess congratulations on having a bottom stat and yet being at the best game. And Jalen Hurts trusts him. I think there's a lot of different ways in which we can see Goddard involved. His usage has gone up. Obviously, in the postseason, we've seen it go up, and I think that's going to continue. The fact that it's at plus 310 was really intriguing to me. So in terms of value, I like that. I like a Saquon anytime touchdown. It's minus 190. I don't love that number. Typically, we kind of did this, if you remember, with Josh Jacobs. This was our strategy with him, with the Packers, like all season long, was take a first half touchdown on Saquon Barkley. I think they're going to be running it pretty much the entire game. I worry about the second half touchdown just because you hate to say it, but injuries, you never know what the game script is. If the Eagles are behind, then they might have to start changing things up and relying more on the pass game. So Saquon first half is my favorite bet. You know what's interesting too, I think when we look at touchdown bets for the Super Bowl versus, really any other game, it's much more difficult to get momentum for a team in the Super Bowl because everything's a bit more delayed. Obviously, you've got that massive halftime that's nearly 4 times as long or 3 times as long as the normal halftime. But even just the replays, the breaks in between, everything's a bit more dragged out. So it kind of helps in some of the prop bets in terms of momentum because it can switch and things can change. And so it's not just one guy you have to be eyeing.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually like the second half under in part as a result of that, just because both these teams can sit in the ball and kind of drag things out there. But you mentioned the Saquon Barkley first half touchdown score. That's plus 135 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I also did want to shout out we talked about Josh Allen. Megan, you talked about his touchdown props a lot during the year. I think that the Meghan Payton special is in play too, that being Jalen Hurts to score twice, plus 550 at FanDuel Sportsbook. So that's why I was excited, Ed, when you brought up the single touchdown one at minus 115. But you look at him to score twice, done that in 4 out of 17 games this year, about 22%. I didn't actually, that roughly around. It's above 20%. He's done it in 12 out of 53 games in the tush push era. It's above 20%. 2 out of 7 in playoff games in the tush push era. The implied odds here around 15%. So I think personally what I did was I put the larger bet on the single touchdown and then put a bid on 2+ touchdowns too, so I could profit if Hurts scores once, but I want the upside if he scores twice too.
I think that's really nice. And, coming into last week, we thought there was an issue with his knee. He had hurt it the week before, and then they're actually running him in the red zone, non-tush push and he scores there, I think, from 9 yards out. So I don't think the knee is an issue, especially after another 2 weeks of rest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that too. 10
carries, 16 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jerome Bettis playing quarterback for the Eagles with the way things have gone there. So I'm on board with that. It just Hurts, my favorite bet for the entire game, frankly, is Hurts to score twice at plus 550. Let's talk some MVP bets now over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Of course, here, it's going to be still a quarterback-centric market. And as you can see at FanDuel Sportsbook, Mahomes, plus 120. You do have Saquon Barkley, though, above Jalen Hurts. He's plus 250. Hurts is plus 370. So, Megan, when you look at the MVP odds at FanDuel Sportsbook, any of those stand out to you, or any MVP-related markets that FanDuel Sportsbook has up as well?
Yeah, I like Saquon, and I think it's actually a pretty fair price at plus 250. I really do think if the Chiefs win, there's a good chance Mahomes is taking home Super Bowl MVP. If the Eagles win, I think there's a good chance Saquon Barkley is taking that home, because the Eagles, in my game script, Saquon has to have a big game. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to contain him to the degree that maybe they hope so. I know Spags is obviously going to, create pressure, but honestly, I think that's not their style. Their style is avoid those explosive plays to guys like AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. And if the Eagles win this game, it's going to be, I think, because of Saquon. I think you're getting a really fair number at plus 250 with him.
Yeah, plus 250 on Saquon Barkley, given kind of a narrative around him, because it is still a narrative-driven award too. It's not maybe not as much as other stuff, but there is still a narrative, and the narrative has been that it's Saquon Barkley's season. He's going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He's basically catalyzed a rebirth of this position, so I do think that it lines up well for Saquon there. What about you, Ed? Any MVP bets that you like for this one?
I haven't done anything, but I certainly think there's some value in Jalen Hurts here. Look, quarterbacks tend to win this award. That's just the truth of it. And Jalen Hurts can have he's probably going to get a touchdown with the tush push, as we've just talked about. And then if he is the one to kind of lead a game-winning drive, even if he plays bad the rest of the game, who's going to win the award? It's probably going to be Jalen Hurts, right? And so, betting him at plus 150, yeah, probably not. But if you're getting plus 370, I think it's about the number here, right? Saquon's had a great year. Obviously, he could impact the game like Megan's been talking about, and that's definitely an outcome. But I do think just simply because he plays the quarterback position and will be in a position to potentially lead them late for a win, I think there is value there.
I do agree with your guys' thought process too, where you're focusing on the big guns here. I've had times where I try to talk myself into in past years, like Damian Williams MVP, the year he scored twice. Right. He didn't win it. That made me very sad. I think I was on Pacheco last year at 50-1. I can't do it anymore. There's really no reason to go beyond these big three to me. Travis Kelce can win it. Yeah, Xavier Worthy, AJ Brown can win it, but I'm not going to predict the secondary guy who does it, so I'm not going to bet it. So I agree with the overall thought process you guys have deployed, where it's let's focus on the big guns here. Let's focus on these primary guys. I think that most times they're going to dominate things, and you're not paying a massive tax on any of them at this point. I don't think either. So I think the overall philosophy does line up there pretty well. Now, because it is the Super Bowl, we got a lot of weird bets out there, and any weird bets, I don't know if you like next gen stats specials, which they got a FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm sure you're a big Kendrick Lamar guy, checking out the halftime show and stuff like that. And any oddball props you like here for Super Bowl 59.
I've yet to look too much into oddball props, but definitely let me give you something that is, in my wheelhouse, which is interceptions. Not too oddballish, but look, Jalen Hurts is at a 1.2% interception rate this year. That's unsustainably low. He's not capable of sustaining that. But, and when you look at some of the analysis I do in predicting interceptions moving forward, he's going to be more like NFL average. So there's the confounding factor that he's not expected to throw that much, about 27.5 pass attempts. So that actually kind of decreases the chance that he throws a pick. Let me give you my number. I have it at about 45% chance that he throws a pick. So there was certainly value, I think, in Caesars earlier this week at plus 140 to get that. I know that has come down a little bit. There are also some auxiliary markets with interceptions that, just take my word for it. Like Hurts is more likely to throw a pick than what the market is giving. So 45% chance that he does throw one. Not quite the most oddball of oddball markets, but yeah, I do think there's some that would be my tip to go look at some interception props.
Well, I've enjoyed your interception props all year, Ed, so I definitely appreciate that. You got close in the Baker to lead in. I think did he actually chop it with with Cousins? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so
there you go.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I was just. I've said this multiple times. If there's any bet I wanted to win this year, it was Baker to lead the NFL in regular season interceptions, and Kirk Cousins messed with me a little bit, so they chopped. But I'll take it. 16-1 when I had it in my newsletter.
I think the real person you need to thank here, though, is Raheem Morris and the Falcons for drafting Michael Penix. They don't draft Penix; they're not benching Cousins, and that's
wow.
There you go. Good point. No, that's a good point.
He went through a bad stretch, though, right?
So it was awful.
I mean, would you put it in? I mean, who would be their backup if they didn't draft Penix?
They probably kept
Ritter. Like Desmond Ritter.
Probably. Yeah, they probably kept Ritter. Yep.
But I mean, I think it'd be hard to bench Kirk for Ritter. I think that's a fair call. That's a fair call. The Penix prop might have, or the Penix draft might have helped.
The funny thing is, so Ed's like 2 calls on INT props before the year were Baker to lead, and the one he said that he liked. He was nervous the guy would get benched, though, was Will Levis. And what happened? Will Levis got benched. So, Ed, 2 for 2. We're going to count that. It was good calls for you on the INT props for the regular season. All right, Megan, any weird props stand out to you for Super Bowl 59?
I love all the weird props. I mean, some of them are just like the fun ones. Like I jump in, I'm riding blue Gatorade this year. I always go with heads for the coin flip. I always ride with over for the national anthem, but those are just the fun ones. For next gen stats, one of the bets I really like is when you look at who's going to have the most yards after the catch for a single reception. Mm-hmm. And I took Travis Kelce. I believe it's at plus 790. It's at a really good number. And honestly, it goes back to this whole theory of Mahomes and Kelce, and it's the Super Bowl. And Travis Kelce has had 138 total yards after the catch in his Super Bowl appearances. Last year, he had the most yards after the catch in all the Super Bowls he's been in. He averaged 6.3 yards after the catch. Last Super Bowl, he rallied up 57. One of the best things about Kelce is his way to find open space, his versatility, and we can see it now. Just the script of one little like doink pass over to Kelce, takes off, boom, and I think that at that number, I know you of course have guys like Xavier Worthy that should be a shorter price. AJ Brown, there's a lot in there, but I think just solely the fact of how much Kelce does get involved in these games is why it's really intriguing to me.
We saw that against the Texans. They, for whatever reason, didn't cover him, and he's able to just, yuck it up down the field. And also the Eagles' weakest part in their defense is linebacker, especially with no Kobe Dean, and that's where Kelce's going to do the most of his damage. So I think buying to Kelce in general makes sense. Plus 790 for him to have the most yak on a single play, that's just a creative way to do it. So I love that for sure. That is a very fun one from Megan. All right. That is all that we have here for today. Did want to go through both of you, though, and get any final last thoughts on this game? Doesn't be a bet, just kind of any final thoughts. Megan, anything else rattling around your brain for this game before we send you off back to Radio Row?
Not to be negative, but like next year, can we get someone else playing in the Super Bowl? Can we maybe switch it up? Can we get a Lions? Can we get a Bills? Can we get a Commanders?
Broncos?
Can we get a Broncos? Can we change up the script? But no, I think it's going to be a great time. I just hope for a close game, honestly. I hope that we don't see either team really take off, and we want a fun one to watch, ultimately.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. That is Meghan Payton. Find her on X at Meghan Payton 7. Find her on FanDuel TV. Megan, enjoy the rest of the time you're down in New Orleans. Hopefully you get out to Toast and enjoy it if you do. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Jim. I'll have to hit you up with those. We're doing a food review for FanDuel, so be sure to tune in for that.
Okay,
we're rating all the food in here in New Orleans.
I love it. That's good. Okay, so we'll get the full list from you there as well. Ed, any final thoughts for you on this game?
Yeah, I think there might have been some people I know that were like, are we really watching the Super Bowl again with Eagles Chiefs? And then you complain about it for a week, and then you realize it's the last game of football for a while. And
I literally did that this entire weekend. That was me, like, I'm kind of bummed, and it's like, oh, actually, I'm excited now. So
yeah,
you're talking about me.
Yeah,
and then you remember that. Again, the game outcome doesn't matter. It's how your 20 prop bets do.
Right.
And that's the best thing you got going. So gonna enjoy it. Gonna be hanging out with my friends, which is probably the most important part. And I don't know. Even if it's a blowout, let's let all the props hit, right? So
let all the props hit.
Absolutely. But I do expect
that actually. That's actually a good point, though. And I think about this all the time. When you're watching the Super Bowl, like, I'm a person normally, I like to sit in my house and watch the games. And I'm not really I don't like to go out during games. But the Super Bowl sometimes is tough because you go to these events and it's like, I feel like I got to go watch the game again after the Super Bowl's over because you're distracted by everything that's going on at these parties. But I don't want to be antisocial and just sit alone and watch.
Exactly.
That might be the new plan going forward.
No, I completely hear that. I have that for soccer because I want to watch the match, whatever it is in the summer, right? And then my usual friends that I watch sports with, they just want to chit. They just want to talk through the whole game. Like, shut up, dude. Trying to watch soccer.
Exactly. So, it's a tough battle. It's tough out here.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully next week we can get Ed chanting Jared Goff somewhere in the stands. We can get Megan's Broncos in there too. We can really party it up then. It'd be a lot of fun. But for now, it's been fun talking to the both of you and enjoying things throughout here. Ed, before we go, though, I do want to get you to ask anything going for you at the Power Rank right now.
Yeah, just check out 5 Nuggets Saturday. Obviously, this week it will be full of Super Bowl props, both my own and that of others. Check it out at thepowerrank.com.
All right. You can find Ed on X as well at the Power Rank. I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Back in tomorrow, talking to Andy Nader about our thoughts on the best novelty props for this game. 10 a.m. Eastern on the YouTube page and up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed after that. We'll talk to all you then. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.